Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing a 2017 variant of the Lange Söhne 1815 Flyback Chronograph. This one, white gold with a sterling silver blackened dial. Outstanding, featuring pulsation scale, classical beauty, and with most of the mechanical sophistication, but none of the thickness of its sister, the Dotograph. Now, this is the second generation 1815 Flyback Chronograph. This 2017 model, 39.5 millimeters in diameter, 11.3 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 48.2 millimeters, and then between the lugs, 20 millimeters. We throw it on my wrist now. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. The fit is excellent. Notice how much more viable it is with the sleeve than the rather chunky and thick Dotograph. It's fairly broad across the wrist, but not so broad that I couldn't recommend it for a slightly smaller wrist even than mine. I think if your wrist is 15 centimeters circumference or up, you're going to wear this well. Rolling down the barrel, you can see that the lugs are not near the edge of my wrist, and even from over the top, which exaggerates the width of the watch, you can still see the lugs are inboard of the edge of my wrist. The strap, high grade, large rectangular scale alligator leather with symmetrical scales, a matte finish. This is an expensive cut of the gator because it is large, rectangular, and symmetrical. That's a very good cut of the hide. It's black with a monotone stitch and a folded edge, calfskin on the bottom. You can see this is a Lange factory strap, no crimping, no gouging. We have a pin buckle. If you've seen my Lange videos, you know what's coming, but I'm going to say it anyway because you may be watching for the first time. It has two cool features. One, an elevated bridge so that the strap sits flush inside the buckle rather than stacking up underneath it. And two, there's a little retaining bar, so if like me, you've got a small wrist, you can use the smallest hole or even punch a smaller hole. That little retaining bar prevents a tightly strapped strap from getting pinned on the pin, so it's easier to remove. Taking a look at the lugs, this is a feature that was present on Lange watches from the very beginning in 1994. The stepped out lugs, giving the case a distinctive profile, even from this angle. You know who makes this case. We have a satin-finished mid-case to contrast with all of the other elements, which are polished. There's a little stepped flange to the otherwise domed bezel. The lugs have a soft bevel on their side. They are fully polished. And then we have an inset case back so that the watch looks even thinner than it is once it's on the wrist for great elegance. We have a Lange branded crown, and then we have pushers for the chronograph that are both polished and satinated. A lovely little refinement that could easily be overlooked, but we don't miss that, not here, not on this channel. We have a pulsation scale on the dial, so it is a doctor's scale. And the idea is if you start the chronograph while holding a patient's pulse, you just let it run until you count the 30th pulse. And so if you stop at 30, that patient is a nice relaxed 60 beats per minute. So that's how it works. You let the watch do the timing and you count the pulse. Okay, I need to wind this watch a little bit to keep it running. The dial, in addition to featuring that nostalgic pulsation scale, is made of sterling silver. So what we've got here is actually a combination of white print on a galvanized black base, but the dial disc, like a precious metal coin, is a solid disc of AG 925 sterling silver. Because it has vertically arrayed Arabic numerals, this is an 1815 family. Stick indices would be Saxonia. Roman numerals would be Richard Lange. We have slightly sunken subregisters with concentric patterns internally and railroad-style tracks for reading their individual marks. Take a quick look. You can see that we have scalloped Arabic numerals at 9 and 3, and that the tachymeter scale is actually stepped above the dial. The hands at center, as well as on the sub-registers, are made of polished white gold, and we have these lovely alpha-style hands for the hours and minutes. The watch includes both hacking or stop seconds, you can set it to a reference time, and flyback action, so you can reset and restart without first stopping, ideal for timing events that occur in rapid succession. Push-down crown, 30-meter water resistance, turn it all over, and the great thing about this watch is that it's as beautiful on the case back as a Dotograph, because everything that makes the modern Dotograph a Dotograph namely date and power reserve, they're on the dial side of the movement, so you don't see them on the reverse. Here you get all the same action as on a Dotograph caseback. This is caliber L951 revision 5, so this is the more modern 951 that has the 60-hour power reserve instead of the original 36. It's still a big slow beat rate, 2.5 hertz, 18,000 vibrations per hour, but here we have a free sprung balance with all the adjustment, for the most part, done using variable inertia bolts on the rim, and the swan's neck, mostly decorative, though it could be used for very fine timing adjustments. There's an overcoil hairspring, and this watch is tested for timing in 5 positions, and with the more centered mass of an overcoil, this watch is better able to keep consistent time from position to position. The watch includes 34 pivot jewels and a combination of a lateral clutch and a column wheel. So here's the lateral clutch, here's the column wheel. Clutch, levers, recentering hammers, column, horns, everything associated with the chronograph is made of steel, which is why you see alternately beveled edges and then satin brushing on the top, or alternatively diamond plate or diamond paste polished. Black polish. So there's 2 ways to do black polish. Black polish can be done with a diamond paste, or it can be done with a zinc plate. So both ways are artisanal and slow going, but the reason it's called black polish is because from every angle except one, it appears black. The chronograph clutch and the associated hardware, actually the most impressive finishing on the movement. You can see we have sharp interior creases where bevels come to a crease, and we have that on both sides. We also have it on the tensioning lever that's actually tensioned with this little eccentric spring right here. You can see how each side of this little assembly features a sharp inward crease. Then we've got one here and one here on the clutch, another one adjacent, plus this incredibly sharp outward point on the clutch where 2 bevels converge in a point, also very difficult to do. Now there's 2 types of screws on this watch. We've got black polished screws and fire blued screws, and there is a distinction in how they're used. The blued screws are generally used to hold things that are fixed in place, whereas the polished screws relate to the adjustment of the mechanism. So you can see there's a lot of polished screws associated with the chronograph, whereas the bridges almost exclusively use blued screws. We have golden chaton cups, nod to the way that pocket watches were made in the classical era of a Lange Sohne. Remember, this brand was revived in 1990 by Walter Lange and his business partners. You just saw the instantaneous minute jumper firing off there. And so a lot of what we consider to be the modern standards of German watch finish, they were established in the 90s by Lange Sohne in its early modern years. And those early modern years wanted to pay tribute to that 19th and early 20th century of Glashütte, or state of Saxony, East German watchmaking in that town. We have German silver, a material that would have been used in that era, nickel, copper, and zinc, with the copper giving it its golden hue. We have those golden chaton cups because back in the day you'd make the cup, press the jewel, and then hold it in the bridge or the plate using screws, because precision equipment didn't exist to press a jewel into a bridge or plate by itself. The column wheel feel here is world class. We've got freehand engraving on the balance cock such that no 2 are exactly alike. Note the presence of stripes on the bridges, engine turning on the base plate. We have anglage on both the steel components here, as well as the German silver bridges. And then there is actually a bridge right underneath the balance for the escapement, and you could see it features snailing on its top and beveling on its edge, no detail overlooked. My cup runneth over when I present a watch like this. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.